We're going to zero in now and bring the voices of some of our youth delegates into a final session. And to lead this session is Ann Miles, who is the Director of Financial Inclusion and Youth Livelihoods at the MasterCard Foundation. And as you can see, we'll have Ann and 3 youth delegates on stage, and Ann will attempt to wrap up some of the key themes from the last couple of days. So I welcome Ann to the stage.
Thank you, Jason. Guess I'll just put this here for a moment. I bet you all didn't know you were movie stars. I love the video. Thank you, Wayne. So here we are at the end of what has been, I think, just a fabulous 2 days. Really more than met my expectations for what I thought this summit would achieve. So I want to thank really all the people in the room for contributing to really robust and rigorous and humorous dialogue around a very complex subject. And I feel like with the summit, we've probably just begun to scratch the surface of this topic. There will be 3 people joining us, young adults, so I think what's really nice is the symmetry, where we've started with 3 keynote speakers that I think really revved us up and got us excited. And we're closing with 3 delegates that I will ask to share their views in just a minute about how they think the summit has gone and their own impressions about what we've done. I want to encourage all of you to remain connected with the foundation over the next year as we continue this conversation about sustainable youth employment in Africa. And I think you're just beginning to see some of the preliminary kind of peeps at what we expect to share over the next few months. Anne-Marie and her team of researchers have really started to share with us some of the preliminary insights around the Youth Livelihoods Diaries. Very interesting sort of tool and methodology, and also some interesting insights that have come out of that work. Later this year, in December, in Uganda, we'll be launching our Youth Forward initiative, something that the team in Youth Livelihoods at the Foundation has been working on really hard for the last 2 years, and a number of the members, the consortium members of Youth Forward are in this room. It uses really a holistic approach to engage with multiple specialized organizations to enhance the employability of young people across Africa. And we'll be starting in 2 countries, Uganda and Ghana, with a set of 4 partners who then have also other partners contributing to the work. So we sort of kick that off with a learning partner and the implementing partners in early December in Uganda. So that will be very exciting, and a continuation of the work that we're doing in this area. But in addition to that, we support rural youth and agricultural development in a number of ways across our program areas. You heard with Ruth's panel this afternoon, we do work with a lot of financial service providers as they use new technologies, new products, and new models. You know, Finca, OI both talked about a range of devices and how they use technology to serve the needs of people earning a living from agriculture. Through holistic training that directly supports young people who could achieve better outcomes, either working in or earning a living from agricultural-related activities. And then through support of leading agricultural learning institutions that will, through the education of students with high potential, lead to greater innovation in agricultural and rural development. One of the nicest things that I like to see was Thelma, who was here at the beginning, and is also serving on the advisory committee for this summit, is actually a student or mentee, advisee of Tom Jane, Professor Jane at MSU. So the nice linkages and ways we see the work carry out both through higher education but also on the ground through a research institute is really nice and rewarding to see. And then finally, through private-public partnerships and engaging with the private sector to increase economic opportunities for young people in the agricultural sector. So I think, again, interesting conversation at the close of yesterday with the private sector and some of the challenges there. But I also thought Harambe's presentation this afternoon, and if you looked at all the private sector partners they work with, where are there opportunities along those broader value chains to engage private sector in this important work ahead? I could go on, but I probably won't. What I'd like to do is actually, before I bring our 3 youth delegates to the stage, and we have a conversation with them, I'd just like to call out and thank quite a few people who've helped us get where we are today with this summit. So first of all, if you don't mind standing up, I'm going to ask you to. So for your moment of glory, I'd like to start with Jane Baldwin. Jane has started organizing this summit at least a year ago, and has religiously kept us on pace with weekly meetings, diligent PowerPoint presentations to let us know where we are in the process, but has kept us truly on track as we have gotten to this point in the last 2 days. She well deserves her next week off in Florence. Thought she might stay here, but she's not. She's been gently, beautifully guided by Alamayu Conde Cora, who's also here in the room. And then a wonderful, wonderful support from a wonderful advisory committee. Many of them were featured, actually all of them were featured over the last 2 days. So Peter Bankole, fondly known as Bamki, Karen Brooks, Arnes Simbuka, and Thelma Namonje. I want to thank all of you for your really critical input. And then, I know, a long list, but this takes a lot of work. The communications team at the MasterCard Foundation just knocked it out of the park as usual. So Jason, thank you for your wonderful and keeping quite calm, even when we had a few moments. Christy Tompkinson is probably not in the room because she's busily managing. Oh, she is. Katrina Kizletsia, who worked with Wayne, our guy who does the wonderful videos and helps photograph a lot of the activity, and then Samantha Fazzackerly, just coordinator. And then we had 3 important partners that worked with us, Millennium, QAV, and Africa Practice, who've really all worked with us as partners on the ground to get this done. So thank you. So what I'd like now to do is invite Nixon Maturi, Maureen Gitata, and Clara Zinyama to the podium, please, to have a conversation. I think you're all mic'd up, right? I asked Nixon to sit between the women, and he willingly agreed. That was not a problem. So where I'd like to start just quickly is if you all would just take a minute or two just to introduce yourselves for the benefit of the audience.
I'm Clara Nyamas from Camfed, Zimbabwe.
A little more, Clara. Tell us what you do. How are you involved in ChemFed, and what are some of the activities you've been engaged in agriculture?
In Kempford, I'm integrated sustainable trainer for young rural women globally, Tanzania, Zambia, Malawi, and Ghana. I'm a farmer, a very innovative farmer. I own 35 hectares of land in Zimbabwe.
Nixon?
I am Nixon Muturi from Kenya. I run a company that is called Bytes Holdings and Consultancy Limited, a company that deals with poultry, dairy, and cassava value chains. And I'm also entering into the world of consultancy. I'm also TechnoSurf Stride alumni, Agribiz for Africa 2014 winner, and I'm currently running a project with Syngenta, Kenya.
I'm Maureen Gitata. I'm from Kenya. I'm an alumni of the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship Program at the University of British Columbia, where I did a master's degree in food and resource economics. And I'm now a consultant with Dalberg, which many of you know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're all being really modest, but we'll leave it at that. Thank you all. So let me ask the first question. Was there one particular session over the last 2 days that stood out for you? And if so, which one? And if you didn't feel there was one particular, that's okay too. You can talk more broadly about the summit. So Maureen, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so I really liked the session this morning, the panel on policy and partnerships, because I think it hit all the key points on why the youth are hesitant to engage in agriculture as much as they would like. But I liked that the focus of the discussion was that if we acknowledge these constraints and act collectively, we can really unlock the potential in the sector. So I like that it was a solutions-focused debate.
Laura?
Thanks, Annie. Allow me to say, by virtue of education, I'm here together with my 5 colleagues from Tanzania, Zambia, and Ghana, as well as Zimbabwe. Raise up your hand wherever you're with. Thank you so much. The session that stood out for me the most, that was the session I attended yesterday on demand-driven skills development. The lesson that I took was we must work to give skills to the young people from an early stage of education and make these skills a core part of education rather than waiting to give them these skills when young people are transitioning from school to a world of work.
Thank you. Nixon?
I would also like to echo Clara's comment that demand-driven skills also took my day. And this is basically connecting that with what we have in agricultural value chains. And I feel that we need to start propagating market-driven agriculture because I feel that is where we have the major problem. Just as we are having a problem with unemployed youths in Africa because of disconnect between skills and employment, I feel that we also have the same disconnect. We are producing, but the market failures and also uncertainty in markets, I think they are discouraging people. And also, I found it very interesting looking at the debate along the mixed livelihood. I grew up in subsistence rural area in Kenya, where my parents did millions of things so that they can be able to sustain themselves. And I grew up knowing that when I grow up, I want to help them learn their ventures as a business. So for me, I feel that mixed livelihood a lot is an opportunity for me to make money, to do my passion, and also to touch lives. So mixed livelihood, the debate and the controversies that stood there, I think it carried my day also. Thank you.
Thank you. It was interesting because when we talked about preparing for the panel, none of them, as of yesterday, had gone to the Mixed Livelihoods breakout session. So this afternoon, you must have attended the Mixed Livelihoods, which is great. Because maybe we can talk about that a little bit more, because we know that there was some debate around that particular topic. Yesterday, we started the day, with 3 keynote speakers that have been referenced a lot over the last day and a half. So in terms of their discussions or conversations with the group here, was there anything that particularly, about what they said that resonated with you? Nixon, I'll start with you. Now I'll go middle and then out.
Thank you, Anne. For me, I felt that Lita and Letitia, they are my hero, and I love what they are doing. They are my heroine, actually, and I love what they are doing. And I was so inspired, motivated, learning about what other Kenyans and what other Africans are doing to transform their communities. Because I feel that Africa is short of selfless leaders. And with the talk with these young people, I felt that these are the selfless leaders that we need, not only along agricultural value chains, but also as leaders in our communities that are showing the way. And I feel that it is a great a challenge for us from learning from the young leaders that we had. It is a great challenge for me personally. When I go back home, I feel that I need to emulate. I need to make a change. I need to transform lives. That was super. That was awesome. Keep up.
Laura?
On the reflection, Alistair, the manager from Blue Skies Foundation, on the panel of agriculture in the private sector, he said for the agriculture sector to develop, we should move along with women. Women, can you give applause? 70% of which, according to my sister, the president for AGRA, 70% of the population practicing agriculture are women. Yet the most disadvantaged group and are not able to go beyond subsistence farming to agricultural business. Concurring to my brother Nikki, Letitia, you make us proud. Especially me, you have taken my heart. Letitia, the founder of Africa Rabbit Center at the age of 14, you managed to take your community somewhere and your life somewhere. What she has gone to achieve for women and children in a community that we call addressing the needs of the community as well as transforming the community. It is something that I will share with my members of my network, Camfed alumni. Some of them are worthy, with me, they're with me. They've raised up their hand, and we have already discussed, Letitia, that we are going to implement rabbit farming and production in our alumni.
So maybe someone can help you, Clara, with the marketing and changing the imaging around eating rabbit. Although Dr. Kalibata has told us it's very popular and very well eaten in Rwanda. So, Maureen.
Yeah, so I agree. I really liked Letitia's story on the Africa Rabbit Center. And my favorite quote so far is still the one that she put forward, which was, make change now while you're still young, because when you get married, you can't even change the TV channel. Yeah, so that's still my favorite.
So you're not married yet, Maureen?
No, I'm still young. Yeah, but I felt particularly challenged to take action and do more, especially with my education on the sector. I think it's so easy to come up with excuses on why you're not implementing your ideas and to find reasons why to not do that. So I think that was a very inspiring quote. I think when I go back to my community, I'll probably try to use some of the mixed livelihood strategies and apply them in agriculture. So do more with my education. But I also liked her story because it was a demonstration of the spillover effects that come from doing work in the agricultural sector. I mean, just by keeping these cute, fluffy bunnies, she's been able to not just provide employment for women in her community, but also educate 400 children who would probably not have had that chance. So I think this should serve as encouragement to the many others who are interested in investing more or doing more work in agriculture. It should serve as encouragement to see the numerous benefits that come from doing work in agriculture. So I'm particularly inspired and encouraged by that story.
So I think yesterday you heard we had that lively discussion, that debate about whether employment in agriculture would really represent an opportunity for youth or not. So I'd really be interested to hear what you thought about that discussion. So maybe Maureen, back to you.
So it was very interesting first to see the level of skepticism in the room on whether you think agriculture is the prime source of opportunity for young people. But I think those results showed just how much more work needs to be done to both inform and demonstrate how agriculture is transforming lives for young people across the continent. And I think the youth delegates did a good job, and this summit is a good platform to initiate that discussion and keep it going. I also liked James's ideas on being careful not to blindly advocate for increased participation of youth in agriculture, because we need to question the kind of quality of employment that's coming from the ag sector. Although that was clarified to be more directed to the production level of the value chains, I think it's still something that we need to keep in mind. I know currently about 70% of the youth in Africa are engaged in vulnerable employment, so we should be careful to make sure that the employment coming from the ag sector is not contributing further to that problem. But I liked that the audience was very quick to clarify or to point out that that should only be about the production level. I think that's a key message that young people should be hearing, that agriculture is not just about production. There are many stages along the value chain where they can engage in. And I think right now that's the biggest problem with youth perception of agriculture, thinking it's just about taking the djembe and going to the garden and engaging in back-breaking work. So they need to know there are many stages along the chain where they can get involved. Yeah.
Nixon, what was your impression of that discussion?
For me, I also concur with Maureen. And for example, if you look at each and every person who is seated here, you will find that 98% of what we are wearing, it is part of agriculture. And you agree with me, the shoe you are wearing, the clothes that we are wearing, it's part of agriculture. That demonstrates how much agriculture is important, and not only in Africa, but wherever in the world. But I feel that agriculture, yes, it is an opportunity for young people. And when I talk about agriculture, I'm talking about agricultural value chains, production to value addition and to market access, all the way to packaging. If you look at agriculture in that way, I feel that agriculture is an opportunity for young people, and I feel that the earlier young people invest in agriculture, the better. Sometimes it becomes so tough when you invest in agriculture, for example, after graduating in high school, graduating from the university, because you find that the proceeds that you are getting, they are not enough with what the society expects of you. So not unless you do mixed livelihood, doing it alone, you find that it is a bit tough, and you are not at par with your peers who invest in other sectors. So I feel it is a good point. I agree with it halfway though, and I feel that also other sectors are as important as agriculture, and we should not also force all the young people to join agriculture, because I feel only the people who have passion for agriculture, who are able to persist, are going to make it along agricultural value chains. So it is a very good thing that we are talking about agriculture as an opportunity, but let us incorporate engineering, let us incorporate ICT, so that it can help us produce more along agricultural value chains. So agriculture is so broad, but we as well need other sectors in in our economies.
So really seeing the broader opportunities that go certainly beyond off-farm. Clara?
I'm concurring to my brother again. My takeaway from the message from the debate was agriculture is a significant solution to youth unemployment in Africa. And we need to think about agriculture beyond manual labor and manual production. To include innovation in agriculture. For example, Rita Kimani in the innovation at the farm drive, what she's doing. But by the end of the debate, I was happy that at the end, people were now voting more and agreeing with the statement, the yes vote.
Wonderful. Thank you. We already touched on the topic a little bit of mixed livelihoods, but I want to come back to it again because I think, again, there was some really interesting discussion around that over the course of the last 2 days. In your own view, and I think, Nixon, we have your point of view already, but maybe you have an opportunity now to expand on it a little bit. Do you see mixed livelihoods as an opportunity or more as a necessity for young people?
I feel, let me speak from my personal point of view. I feel for me, agriculture has been mixed livelihoods is an opportunity for me, but I don't feel the same when it comes to smallholder farmers. I don't feel the same when it comes to rural youths. I feel that most of the young people are doing mixed livelihood as a push. You find that most of the young people want to support their family, but the source of income is not enough. For me, I feel it is an opportunity for me. One, because it is driven by passion. It is driven by seeing an opportunity and need to make money. And also it is driven by looking at it and wanting to make an impact in my community and also in my society. I think it is still a tough debate. I wouldn't like to square it and say it is an opportunity or it is a necessity. But I feel it depends with different communities, with different households.
Laura, do you have a view?
It's a double-edged sword. It all depends, it's contextual, but my side is a necessity because the young youth, they are doing it out of the context of vulnerability. It's, they have no option, they have nowhere to go. So yeah, I feel like it's a necessity to them.
I agree. I definitely think it's a necessity. Yeah. As I said, about 70% of the youth are engaged in vulnerable employment, and 2/3 of the youth live on $2 or less a day. So these young people are really struggling to meet even their most basic needs. So if someone comes up to them and tells them, if you do this, you can probably increase or double your income, they would definitely take it up to meet not just their basic, but also their material needs. So I think it's driven by necessity.
So one more question, and then I have one kind of fun question. But before we get to that, what, in your view, and we heard a little bit about this from Dr. Kalibata and also in the policy panel discussion this morning, but what do you see as the role, and also at the end of yesterday with the private sector players, what do you see as the role for government or the private sector in creating these opportunities? And then also, what do you see as the role for young people in terms of helping to change the dialogue a bit? Clara?
The role of the government is welfare and development of youth, as well as formulating favorable policies that allow growth in the agricultural sector.
That's the role of government. And how about private sector?
The private sector, I keep on referring to the blue sky manager again, Alistair. You mentioned about the private sector as the engine for engineering, for growth of, and the government should help and formulate some favorable environment for this private sector. So I feel they are the engine for growth.
And just one last bit there around the young people. Where
Well,
do young people have a role in these two important stakeholders, with these two, with
Young
private
people.
sector and government? Yeah.
Young people, I think their role is to impart and disseminate the knowledge, especially the technologies, the new technologies which are uprising day and night to other youth, and also contributing to decision-making of the policies in the growth of agricultural sector.
Nixon.
One, I feel that the role of government is one, to provide a conducive environment for agricultural businesses to thrive in. And another one is having access or creating access to cheap credit and also cheap loans that are able to finance agriculture. For example, in my country, the interest rate on loans is 27%. 27% cannot be able to finance any agricultural startup because paying it will be a tough job. And also I feel that we need to transform our country's education, and that is the role of the government, so that it can have education that promote innovations. And these innovations will as well help us in agricultural value chains. And also I also think that we need to have a political will that comes from the government so that it will be the driver. And I feel that, for example, having a political will in Africa, it is going to open market for agricultural produce. It is going to increase integration, and we are going to have a wider market for our produce. And the other thing is that both the private sector and both the government and also our laws, it is also to change the image portraying agriculture as an old-fashioned job. So I think we need to work a lot on that. And also I think, let me talk about on private sector. Okay, I've just said help improve agricultural image. And also I think that competitions sponsored by private sectors are also key. Private sector also need to come up and partner with innovators like Rita, so that they can be able to put them on a global level, and it can create a multiplier effect on what the young innovators are doing. And also, I think we also need mentorship programs from the private sector. Private sector is key in bringing up and nurturing young leaders who are doing something along agricultural value chains. And finally, I think we need a lot of capital investment in terms of equity. When private sectors come in place and invest in young startups, invest in young innovations, I think it is key in growing and adding a multiplier effect to those. And my final part, as young leaders, as young people, I think our role is just to position ourselves to be a noble focal point for funding, to be a noble focal point that has a little proof that we are able to do what we are entrusted to do. And also we are able to trickle it down to our local communities and also to our other young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Nixon. Very well thought out and articulated. Maureen.
So I think we need more success stories from the youth. Yesterday's stories were really inspiring, but we need more. And I think we saw that from the gentleman who stood up and asked, Rita, where did you find these young people? So I think we have a responsibility to really demonstrate that we are actually taking action and engaging in the ag sector and benefiting from it. For the private sector, I think their key role is to drive innovation and to provide opportunities for access to finance, as Nixon explained. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing it with Blue Skies. In Kenya, there's Livelihoods, which processes bananas into flour, which is an interesting concept because I'm sure when you look at bananas, you don't think of flour. So we need more creative ideas, we need more innovations, and especially in the processing sector, there's a lot of food waste that happens in African countries. So really looking at innovative ways to develop agricultural commodities into different products. But the biggest role is definitely for the government, and that was articulated in the morning. There's only so much the youth and the private sector can do, but without the government involvement, that's very limited. So the first thing I think they need to do is to really sensitize and institutionalize this concept of youth engagement in agriculture, mainly by bringing agriculture back into the education curriculum, as was also mentioned this morning. I agree with the lady who made that point. When I was growing up, I was told, work hard, go to school, so that you don't have to end up in the farm, in the rural areas. So that's the mentality we've grown up with. But if you have agricultural education in schools, then kids will learn from a very young age that this is actually a place where you can find employment opportunities or you can innovate in. The second thing I think they need to do is to reduce trade barriers within the continent and improve infrastructure. There's an interesting TEDx talk that highlights a really important point. They give an example of a ton of fertilizer. To transport a ton of fertilizer from a US port to the port of Mombasa, which is a 9,000 kilometer journey, costs $40. But to transport the same ton of fertilizer from the Mombasa port to Kampala, which is a 1,000 kilometer journey, costs $120. So if you do the math, the transportation costs per unit are almost 30 times as much within the continent than across different continents. So we need more work in that. I think that's happening in some countries, but infrastructure still needs to be improved to be able to move commodities and create access to markets. And the last thing that I was thinking about was the government really needs to create the right policies, as Clara said, because so if we engage in this, all this agricultural work, and the transformation happens, and all of a sudden there's a surplus in the markets, what's going to happen to the prices of these commodities? In many local markets, using maize as an example, the price of a bag of maize depends on how much supply there is in the region. If there's a lot, the price of maize goes down. So the government needs to make sure that this is not a self-defeating move, where we're trying to improve farmers' incomes, but actually the opposite is happening. So they need to develop policies and the right environment for this transformation to happen.
Thank you. Wow. Some great responses, a lot to think about and deliberate on further. Just one last question before we sort of close. How do you engage your friends in thinking about potentially working in agriculture? We know the power of peer networks. Have you tried to sell your friends on working in agriculture? Clara?
Yeah, we, as Kama members, it's a network of young girls and rural women. We engage in as much as we can because we often meet. We've got projects which we run, different projects. So in as much as we can, we keep on engaging ourselves in one another, informing each other. As from now, they're already knowing what is transpiring, technology and stuff. So we work together, and we've got a common saying which say together we can. So we are always engaged globally.
Nixon.
That's a great question. Thank you, Anne. And I feel that I started this the first time I came here because I've been sharing every moment on our farmers' WhatsApp group, on social media, on Facebook, and also encouraging, having WhatsApp talks and encouraging them that you need to be here. And actually, when I go and they see me, they always tell me that you are a product of cassava.
You don't look like a product of cassava.
Yeah, because working along agricultural value chains has, I think it has praised me beyond what my academic qualifications could have done. And they tell me that when you used to come from the university, you used to plant cassava and we used to love it too. But today to put you on a global map. And now I tell them you still have an opportunity to explore. You still have an opportunity to make your own legacy. You don't have to use cassava, you can use tomato. You don't have to use tomato, you can use allolutes, and still you do it. So I think peer-to-peer learning started the first thing that I came here. And when they asked me, what are you doing in Cape Town? I told them, I'm here to meet my fellow farmers. And they are like, farmers? They were expecting to hear, we are here to meet global leaders, to meet each and every other big person, to meet their continental presidents. But I came here to meet Clara, who is doing farming, who is working along agricultural value chain. I came here to meet Maureen, who is doing consultancy along agricultural value chains. And I think that is a great part of farming. So for me, it has already started.
Thank you.
So for me, I think it's actually the other way around. It has been some of my friends selling this idea of agriculture to me. I have very many friends, mostly ladies actually, who have pieces of land. So they live in Nairobi, which is the capital of Kenya. But they have pieces of land in these places in Kenya where you would not expect them to, and they're actually actively engaged in agriculture. And I observed this while I was still in school, and I was very impressed, mostly because they were leading very, good or impressive lives economically. So the interesting thing I found is that many young people are actually already engaged in agriculture. But I also serve as an example. I think when I was back in school with most of my friends, they would never have expected me to specialize in food economics or in agriculture. So whenever I tell them what I studied, they're always really surprised and they ask why. So then I explain to them the opportunities that are in this sector. So I think serving as an example is a big aspect of it. And also just engaging over social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, and all the other platforms.
Great, thank you. So one last question, and then I think we're closing up, right? Okay, mindful of time. Do you have one question you'd either like to ask me or someone at the foundation or anyone in the audience? It's time for you to put a question out.
Mine is not a question as such, but allow me to take this opportunity to acknowledge the work being done by the researchers in Ghana, the LIFT, Annie and team. I want to give them an extra page on their research on the retention of the dropouts. If I got them right, they said some of these young youth who are doing the livelihoods, they are school dropouts. As I said prior, by virtue of being here, it was because of education. So I value education most in agriculture. We cannot go anywhere without education. Let's give education its position. So on your research, work on the retention of these young youth to go back to school and do the best. On another note, thank you so much, Madam Rita and your MasterCard family for this opportunity. It is set as an opener. As I said previously, we should take lessons wherever we are going, go and cascade it to our youth. Let's go and prove it. that we can do it and diminish all those negative stereotypes about youth. Let's go and work and prove it, so that whenever the ministers, the policies are being gazetted, they know that they mean it and they can contribute to the socio-economic of the country. For the psychologists, sociologists, professors, CEOs, directors, government officials, members of the private sector, allow me to say that Africa is calling for inclusive participation, collaboration, integrating, and visual leadership. Let's join the army. I rest my case. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Cara. I don't know, that's a tough one to follow, Nixon. Go ahead.
Well, I love that. And allow me to reveal just something, because I don't have a question. I was so excited to get emails signed by Lita Loy, the president of MCF. So I used to take them with a lot of respect and a lot of pride. Thank you, Loy. Lita. So today, I also feel that, as Dr. Karibata said, that young people are not going to join agricultural value chains, basically because we tell them that people are aging, and we tell them that, we are looking for profitable ventures. And also, I'm not talking about making agriculture cool and sexy. I'm talking about making it profitable, because I believe each and every person who is there, you are where you are because you have a passion to be there. You are where you are because you're making money. You are where you are because maybe you are changing lives. And I just want to say, since I came to this and listening to what the keynote speakers have been saying, I just want to summarize that with one sentence. And I just want to read it out because I wrote it. And for Africa to feed Africa and to feed the world, we need a liberation along agricultural value chains. When I talk about agricultural value chains, I talk from production to value addition and to market access. And for this liberation to take place, young people must be involved because they have the brains and they have the energy. So that is my strong point, and I think each and every person here is committed to that. And for young people, as I always say, time is now, we are the people. Let's do it. Thank you.
Maureen?
Yeah, mine is not a question either.
Oh, that's just as well.
Yeah, maybe more of comments and observations. But first, thank you so much, Rita, and the rest of the people in MasterCard Foundation for providing this platform for us as young people to share our experiences and to voice our opinions and to actually get to interact with with the other players who are here. So I guess it would be more interesting, or it's something that maybe you can work on in the next summits. I'm sure there'll be many, but we definitely need more representation, or a bigger representation from the public sector, so that we can have them hear our stories and be as impressed as the gentleman was impressed yesterday and ask for, where have these people been? The truth is we've been here all along, but now we have a platform to share our stories and experiences. And then to the audience, I would just hope that this conversation will continue, it will keep going, and that hopefully in a few years' time, the level of skepticism will come down and we will have more youth engaged in agriculture. Also, I was particularly struck by a comment from Shami, who I was talking to yesterday, who was saying that as employers, sometimes you need to lower the bar if you're trying to engage or have more young people working with you. So I think that's something that, and I think we also got this from the Harambee workshop on Wednesday, so that's something that people should probably keep in mind. But yeah, keep the conversation going, and we're here, we've been here all along, and we'll continue to be here as young people interested in agriculture.
So thank you, Clara. Nixon and Maureen will be watching you, as we'll be watching many of the youth delegates who were here with us for the past 2 days. So thank you for a very lively and rich conversation about the last 2 days. And we'll see you in about a little over a year, right? So a lot to get done between now and the next summit. So with that, back to you, Jason, but thank you all very much.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you to our youth delegates as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap. So I want to add my thanks to Anne for your participation, for your contributions, and for your involvement in our inaugural youth summit. As Anne mentioned, there is another summit in the works, and at the moment, the rough timing for that is early in 2017. And so we will be, of course, letting you know as that summit starts coming together, and we would love to see you in the next destination where this event will be happening, which is, for now, is a secret. So again, all of the materials from the last 2 days will be uploaded to the youngafricaworks.org website. We will notify you when the videos go up, but the presentations, the contact lists, and that kind of thing will be going up over the next day or so. So again, thank you very much for joining us in Cape Town, and safe travels home.